Community is everything. We're proud to support ours. Through partnerships with fellow community leaders and organizations, we're helping our neighbors access essential resources and services so we can all thrive. Learn more at bofA.com/community.
With me today, we have Clarinda Barnett-Harrison, Director of Skills at Michigan Central, and Stefen Welch, Vice President, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion at the Detroit Pistons. So some really cool organizations. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention they are both graduates of Leadership Detroit. What year?
34, so that was 2012, 2013.
And I was 35.
And
So the next years.
Right, so she wasn't in the best class ever, basically is what Clarinda just
you know how this goes.
Of course, yeah. How many LD folks do we have in the audience today? Awesome. Okay. Good to see represented. So I want to kind of I'll get right into the conversation, but I just wanted to frame it in the sense of, we'll talk a little bit more about both of you, but I think the idea was to really tee up the conversation with some outstanding young professionals, some folks like yourself who stayed in Michigan, who had the opportunity at points in their career, I'm sure, to leave, and they stayed here. And that's the type of, you're the type of story that we want to kind of share and promote as far as how do we grow population. A big piece of that is retention, and I think you're going to hear that on stage today. A big piece of growing population is not just more people moving here, but keeping the people who are here, keeping the really smart, intelligent people here instead of leaving. So with that, both of you work at really cool organizations. Clarinda, why don't you start? Can you talk a little bit about your role at Michigan Central?
Yeah, so for those of you who aren't aware, Michigan Central, affectionately known as the train station, is much more than that. It's a 30-acre innovation district that is a community of innovators that includes academia, founders, large companies, and community that's really moving to position Michigan and specifically Detroit as the innovation capital in mobility of the world. And so part of what we're doing in my role is making certain that we hold space for individuals to be developed as talent for the entrepreneurs and the companies that are co-locating with us. We're also working with many of the colleges and universities around the state in order to ensure that we're retaining talent so that they are able to take those positions or be entrepreneurs in our founder space. And we're also helping to reskill and upskill our existing talent who are interested in the future of mobility.
Stefen?
For me, I really had the honor and privilege of working for a professional sports team, specifically the Detroit Pistons, as someone who oversees diversity, equity, and inclusion for the organization. My primary responsibility is to examine how we do business internally and externally. One that is developing and engaging all individuals that we have within the organization. We know when folks feel as though that they're developed, when they feel as though that they have a voice, where they feel as though that they can thrive, they're more than likely to stay versus their counterparts who don't. And then, of course, attracting and acquiring diverse talent. A lot of organizations, when they talk about diversity, equity, inclusion, they talk about that attraction piece. Not only do we want to be attractive, but we also want to acquire as well. Third is identifying and supporting diverse, minority-owned, historically excluded businesses to help them thrive. And then fourth is continuing to support and honor the trust that we have in the communities that we serve and represent.
Very cool. So both of you have been around, you've built a career here, let's just say 10 years at least. So talk a little bit about what kind of Detroit and the narrative was when maybe you were starting out in your career and how that's changed to where you are now.
Yeah, so I started my career in the early 2000s, so I'm impressed that I get to still call myself a young professional. But when we started, I remember that there was this earnest group of 20-somethings who believed that the city, we always saw the city as it is today. The things that people see, the beauty, the culture, the art, that was never lost upon us, but there was a lot of convincing, even throughout the state, that Detroit is the place that we all recognize it to be today. But I think that some people called it naivete, but I think for us, we just understood what Detroit is, what Detroit was, and its full potential. And I honestly believe we haven't completely met our potential. I think that there is so much that is untapped in the talent, in the community here, in the residents, that we all have the collective responsibility of activating and including in the work and the progression of the city. And I think if we do that, we'll realize even higher heights.
Yeah, I think Clarinda said it best. As I was coming out in my career and trying to navigate my way through a few things, what really helped me the most was a program called Fusion that was led by the Chamber. And that literally helped direct me in the path that I was going in my career. It was a young professionals program through the Chamber. And many of those folks I still have relationships with today. Many of them were at my wedding. Many of them support me now, right? And so what I believe for me is that I was raised to live in the city of Detroit. I had a father that told me, hey, there's no place like Detroit. And so it started at home too. And so when I saw other people leaving, I said, you know what, I need to make sure that I stay, because if I leave, who else is gonna leave? And so I saw Detroit's potential. And like Clarinda said, I saw what Detroit was, what Detroit is, and what it can be. And so I believe there's no place in the world like it. A few years ago, I was sort of coerced into possibly moving to New York, and somehow somebody made a mistake during the interview and said, you can do this work from Detroit. And I was like, bet, let's make it happen. And so I'm so excited to wear that badge of honor on my sleeve.
Awesome. So, yeah, I was going to ask, were there any kind of almost moments and kind of what kept you here?
Yeah, so little known fact, I was raised in Detroit, but I was born in Atlanta. So I'm a motor
I didn't know that at all.
No one knows that, because I go so hard for Detroit. And I came here when I was like 2 years old. But there was a moment where my other home was calling me, and when I compared the community that of family, but chosen family that I have here, it was unmatched. And honestly, I travel the world studying cities. I'm an urban planner by trade, and Detroit ranks amongst the best cities in culture, in artifacts, in architecture, in urban planning. I mean, this is a great city, and so going anywhere else, it just doesn't compare.
I truly agree. I mean, when you look at our timeline, I truly believe that Detroit is really the heartbeat of America. We've made America cool, if you ask me. And so I have a real big passion for the city of Detroit. You know, I could be anywhere, and the first thing that you typically hear out of my mouth, I'm mad I didn't say it today, is what up, though? I can start a meeting, what up, though? I can literally start a meeting and say, what up, though? I would do that with my colleagues in New York, and they're like, what is he talking about, right? It's a certain shared language, it's a certain shared passion that we have, it's a certain shared je ne sais quoi, so to speak. You know Detroiters before you even start talking to them, and so I love that.
Awesome, yes, I agree. So kind of a couple questions to wrap up here. Clarinda, Michigan Central is, you could easily argue, the most anticipated kind of development over the last year, and in 2024, you could argue that's the biggest kind of opening that'll take place with the train station coming online. There's a huge talent and attraction and retention play there. Can you talk about how you and your team are viewing that in the context of population growth as far as talent, attraction, and retention?
Yeah, so I love what you said earlier, Devon, around retaining the talent we have here, because that's where we're starting. We're starting with making certain that we're upskilling Detroiters in opportunities that are available right now. An example of that is the Electric Vehicle Supply Equipment, or EVSC, technician training that we launched in December exclusively for Detroiters to help train them on implementing, repairing, and maintaining the electrification infrastructure. That is a physical and technical job, because it also includes some understanding of software and technology. We have many more opportunities like that coming online that's really about helping to cultivate the talent that's already here. As I mentioned earlier, we're also working with organizations like the University of Michigan, Michigan State, Michigan Tech, Wayne State, because those are great producers of the kind of talent that we need in order to propel us forward into the future of mobility. The problem is 70% of those folks get their degrees and they go elsewhere. They go places like Palo Alto, they go to Austin and Boston, and so we want to make certain that they understand that the opportunities for them to stay here are alive and well, and so we're working on initiatives that we will be launching this year to create opportunities for individuals to have fellowships and internships on our campus. And then lastly, we know that we have a robust ecosystem of engineers and automotive talent with just an additional skill set like artificial intelligence or understanding, converting to software engineering from electrical engineering or mechanical engineering, that those engineers can be reactivated and redeployed into the kinds of jobs that are being created today. So we're also launching initiatives to help retain that talent, reskill them, upskill them, and place them into founders and larger companies that are locating with us now and in the future.
It's awesome stuff. Stefen, I want to give you a chance because, I know that the Pistons are involved in a lot of stuff that people may know about, but also the development that's on the radar. That whole area around the Pistons Performance Center is going to be absolutely transformed by some really big projects. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what you're excited for there and how you're going to ensure, or how we need to ensure that Detroiters feel a part of that development as it takes place?
Yeah, that development is something that has really been something that we are really proud of, not only at the Pistons, but Michigan State University, as well as Henry Ford Health Systems. You all will get a chance later on today to hear from Denise Brooks-Williams, and if you've never heard from her, she's an absolute treat. One of the things that I'm proud of and still excited about, and Josh Roberson is here, who is the District 5 manager for the city of Detroit. We've literally been everywhere within the district, including that impact area, as well as all around the city to talk about this development and get feedback from residents. We've met with over 1,000 residents. We've had over 100 community meetings, even before we got to the community benefits ordinance, which was extremely impactful. Everything that was in that CBA or that community benefits agreement was something that was agreed upon, recommended by community members, small business owners. We literally, every senior citizens, residents in the area, we sat down and had conversations with. We've talked with students at high schools. I mean, when you think about it, right, we literally within the agreement have 50 free college scholarships for students at Northwestern High School as well as UPrep. I've never seen anything like that in the city of Detroit, so I'm excited for what that can do. Looking forward to the expanded services that Henry Ford can provide to the neighborhood as well as to the city and other state residents. So there's a lot that's going to be coming down the pipeline, the housing. My niece, who is our daughter, she's lived with us for a number of years now. She's on her own. She's a nurse. We literally were trying to find an apartment for her in the city of Detroit, and we could not. And she moved to the burbs, which crushed me. No offense to my friends in the burbs, but that crushed me. And so I know opportunities like this, especially from an deep affordability standpoint, will be extremely beneficial to the neighborhood and to the city of Detroit overall.
Awesome. Well said. Well, we are out of time, but I speak for, I'm sure, a lot of people that we're all glad you stayed. You're glad you decided to make a career here. That goes for everybody who decides to stay and make a career here and be a champion for Detroit and our region. So thank you for joining us. I'm really excited for what's to come on both of your projects and your teams. It's going to be really, really cool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Community is everything. We're proud to support ours. Through partnerships with fellow community leaders and organizations, we're helping our neighbors access essential resources and services so we can all thrive. Learn more at bofA.com/community.